All right, happy Monday, everyone. Today is April 20th. I want to do a happy birthday to Jada and I guess Janiyah too, because I'm pretty sure they're twins, but it should be their birthday today, so say happy birthday to them if you know either of them up at Sumner. But today what we're going to be doing for class is we're going to be going over 1 and 2 step linear equations. And really from here on out, a lot of what we'll be covering in class will be review from this prior year of learning algebra. And so this is really, hold on, gotta get my tool. This is really Unit 1 material. So it's been a while since we've covered 1 and 2 step equations. But today that's what we're gonna do. And so what I'm going to do is show you all how to get 100 on IXL. And so I'm going to be going through both of the IXL standards that we're doing. So we're doing 2 IXL standards. And I'm going to take some notes about what concepts or ideas you'll have to understand in order for you to achieve 100% on your IXL standards, okay? And so before I get started, I think I want to list out some materials that you'll need that will help your learning today. So if you don't already, try to get either a pen or pencil, and then either get a notebook or just some pieces of paper. The reason why I'm explicitly saying that is because if you're just watching this video and not taking notes at all, it's going to be really hard for you to remember everything and then be able to just complete problems on your own, okay? Again, this is review, so we're not learning anything new, so you shouldn't be too overwhelmed by what we're covering, but it's good practice to write notes, take notes on what you're doing. Practicing taking notes is important because you'll need to be able to take notes in the future of your mathematical and educational career, okay? All right, so let's get into the lesson. We'll start with 1-step equations. And if you have to pause the video throughout to write what I write, that's totally fine. So 1-step equations require first that you identify the operation happening and then you have to identify the opposite or inverse. I-N-V-E-R-S-E, inverse operation, okay? Opposite or inverse. And so a quick example of this is if I have x plus 3 equals 5, what operation is happening to x? Well, if I look right here, we see that addition is happening. So that's step 1. Then I can think through, what's the opposite of this? What's the inverse or opposite of addition? Step 2, the opposite, is subtraction. So in order for me to get x by itself to find some number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform the opposite operation, right? So if we're adding 3 to x, I'm going to subtract 3. This should be really familiar for everyone, okay? And whatever I do to this side, I have to do to this side. That's the definition of an equal sign, right? And so I subtract 3 from x on this side, I subtract 3 on this side. 3 minus 3 becomes 0. I can bring down my x, which is now alone. 5 minus 3 becomes 2. Bring down my equals, so x equals 2. Right? So that's a quick example. I'm going to go through every single operation now, okay? So we just did an addition example. X plus 7 equals 12. I'm going to write them down first. A subtraction example. X minus 3 equals 6. That kind of looks like a B. Division example. X divided by 7 equals 2. And then a multiplication example. Five x, remember that whenever there's a number and a variable, that's multiplication happening, equals 10. Okay? So we've already done step 1. Step 1 is saying identify what operation is happening. What operation is happening is there's addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Step 2, though, is to ask ourselves what the opposite is. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of division should be multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division, right? And so now I'll perform the opposite or inverse operation to solve for x, right? So if we have x plus 7 equals 12, we'll first create our line down the center, and we'll subtract 7 from both sides. 7 minus 7 becomes 0. Bring down our x. 12 minus 7 is 5. X equals 5. That's the answer. Now to this one, x minus 3 is equal to 6. Bring down this line. Add 3. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. It should always be 0. It was 0 over here, but it's always 0. Bring down our x. Now we'll do 6 plus 3. We have to do it on both sides of the equal sign. That should be 9. So x equals 9. Now, this one's a little more complicated. X divided by 7 is equal to 2. The inverse operation is multiplication. So if I want to cancel this division, I'm going to multiply by 7. 7 times 7 on both sides. Now we have 7 divided by 7 up here. That just becomes 1. So we have 1x, or x alone. That's a 1 right here. Is equal to 2 times 7, which is 14. So x, or 1x, is equal to 14. All right. Now for this one, the multiplication, 5x is equal to 10. We know to divide by 5 on both sides. 5 divided by 5 becomes 1x again. 10 divided by 5 becomes 2. X is equal to 2. Again, this video is really just a review of one-step equations. If you feel really comfortable with one-step equations, then just go ahead and do the IXL standard, okay? I don't want you to waste your time, and I'm going to put that in the notes of the video as well, okay? And if you're struggling, then you can come back to here and use the examples. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to IXL, and I'm going to do some problems. So if you haven't logged into IXL for a minute, the link will be in the assignment that I post. But I'm going to get into a student example account. So S example at STLOUISPS. Remember, St. Louis PS. You need to do that or else you won't get into it. And then Sumner HS is the password. Not now. Okay, so if you're looking for what assignments I've suggested, it says right here, 63 skills suggested by your teacher. What we're going to do is we're going to do the one that is solving one-step linear equations. So that's Algebra 1, J.3. Okay, so the equation that we have here is 18 is equal to n plus 3. So I go back to my notebook. For you, you'll just have a notebook that you have. 18 is equal to n plus 3. Step 1, what operation? We see addition. Step 2, what's the opposite? Subtraction. So then we will subtract 3 from both sides. 18 minus 3 becomes 15 is equal to n, and then 3 minus 3 becomes 0, so we don't have to write that. So n equals 15. Let's put it in. Brilliant. Okay. Now we have 16.8 is equal to d plus 6.8. What operation's happening? We see addition. So that means that we need to subtract. Okay. So we'll subtract from both sides. Minus 6.8, minus 6.8. Remember the equal sign is where the line is. 16.8 minus 6.8 becomes 10 is equal to D. All right. Go here. We'll put in our 10. Okay, this new equation is J over 3 equals 4. So this is a J over 3 equals 4. So this is a fraction. We need to know whenever we see fractions that we're really dealing with division. So step 1, we know that it's division. Step 2 means doing the opposite. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So we'll multiply by 3 on both sides, times 3 times 3. 3 times divide 3 becomes 1, or 3 over 3, that's what that becomes 1, 3 divided by 3. So we have 1j is equal to, what's 4 times 3? 12, or j equals 12. Remember, we don't have to write the 1 in front. It's the same thing as just writing j. So j equals 12. Bam. All right, 3v is equal to 14.13. What operation do we see? We see the 3v. Remember, that is multiplication because they're next to one another. Is equal to, okay, so we know it's multiplication. We have to do the opposite then. So we're going to do, not subtraction, division. So then we'll divide by 3 on both sides. 3 divided by 3 becomes 1v. And then 14.13 divided by 3 is, let me think, is 4.71. And if we don't know that off the top of our heads, what we can do is we can go to the browser and do use the divide symbol, 3. Go. 4.71. Cool. So now that we know that, 4. Fantastic. Okay, so we can just keep on doing this and get all the problems all the way to 100%. If you have any questions, you can ask me and I'll go through any questions you may have. Until then, I want you to do A1 J.3 right here, and I'm going to create another video for two-step equations following this, okay?